There was a bomb. A girl. I don't remember this place. What the fuck is going on? Red? Okay. Looks like I'm going to building B.
Hello and welcome back to Get Even. This is Enchanted, and here we're just going to go through the memos. We don't have many right now, but that will explode as levels go on. We'll get a lot of memos. They're basically just little, like, visual plot summaries of the events so far. I quite like this area. It's an interesting kind of area to roam around in. It's got some neat visuals to it. And some interesting evidence as well. For example,
DNA
what's this
found.
doing here?
Female, 18 to 22 years of age.
Huh?
Why is the bomb here? This is nowhere near where the kidnapping took place. That's certainly out of place. Well, onwards towards building B. Over here is building A. We'll never go there. That's just there for set dressing. As you can see, it remains firmly locked. I quite like the little things in this area, like this porter cabin over here, or porter cabin outhouse, or shed, whatever it's supposed to be, because they're interesting little visual things in areas you wouldn't otherwise need to come to. And this is a very well hidden piece of evidence as well.
An unmanned aerial vehicle, produced by FDG.
FDG. Why does that sound familiar?
Those two pieces of evidence are probably some of the easiest to miss in the game, because you wouldn't really expect there to be much in this garden area. It's mostly transitional areas until you get into this building here, which is building B. So without further ado, let's start our exploration, shall we, of whatever this building is. That doesn't sound good. I think we're locked in. Let's see what evidence we can find around here, shall we? Like this mannequin hand.
DNA found. One matching profile. Patient 912.
Patient?
What's a mannequin doing with DNA? This is odd. Let's just move on and not think any more of it. I quite like that ruined staircase there, where you can kind of get the impression of the second floor, but not actually reach it. That's an interesting visual. And I quite like this little humming music in the background as well. It does a really good job building a kind of tension.
Shit. Am I alone in here?
No thermal readings in the area.
Just me then?
Let's turn this off. Wasting energy. This place doesn't look like it has much left. Let's see what we can find here, shall we? That's not concerning at all.
DNA found. One matching profile. Patient 219.
I quite like the designs of the mannequins, because they're just human enough to be a little unnerving when you first spot them popping out like that. The fact that they're not completely faceless mannequins gives it that little extra edge to it that a normal mannequin wouldn't really have. It makes it feel very personalised as well. That's suspicious, but we'll see what else we can find around here first. I quite like just the sheer amount of cabinets as well. It's kind of an unnecessary number of them. And this post is actually not evidence, it's just kind of there, which is very weird, because it feels like it should be a piece of evidence, but you can't scan it. Either way, let's move on to this big hole, shall we? Following
Fuck's sake,
these UV footprints. Wonder what they stepped in that's showing up in UV. I quite like the whining of the electricity in the building, joining in with the hum of the spooky music as well. It works really well. The music in this game generally, as I mentioned in the first level, really builds well and does a really good job introducing new aspects of it. I quite like this area as well because it's very alarming because there's a lot of red and a lot of shattered bits of tile that look almost like blood on first sight, but aren't. It's a good kind of way of throwing you off your game. Okay. Let's just ignore that, shall we? Someone's probably just messing with us. Put it out of our minds.
Oh my god. Somebody! What's happening? Help!
Warning. Building circuitry unstable. Reset with breaker or fuse box.
That was the kidnapping victim's voice.
I could trace them back to them.
So this is where we introduce our new app, the Vision app. I'd say new, we can access it from the beginning, but this is the first time it really has a purpose beyond showing up enemies on the map, because of course it's a heat signature thing. I quite like the way it uses this puzzle. It uses it very infrequently in the game, but it's a neat kind of environmental puzzle, although it still results in staring at the phone a bunch. Don't know how that monkey fell off the chair. Let's just try and get the lights back on, shall we? But yeah, I turned the brightness up for this game generally because it's one of those games that isn't necessary to keep it at the default darkness because it's just too dark in some areas at that point. It makes it tedious to get through an area. Of course, you end up not being able to see a lot of the walls. So for this kind of stuff, I prefer to keep it a little higher than it should be. Which means that it's nowhere near as dark right now as the game wants it to be, of course. But here we have a puzzle, a fairly basic one. Turn them on in the order of the ones that are already warmed up. Otherwise they'll short circuit and blow out. Temporarily, of course. You just have to get all four of them on, but we've at least completed the puzzle without brute forcing it, so that's nice. So let's move on, shall we? Back downstairs. Now the lights are back on. And now our heartbeat and this little electrical twanging noise have joined the music too. Giving a very different feel to the first visit down these stairs.
How much were you responsible for? You started all this. This all your fault.
One thing I quite like with the apparitions in this game, unlike a lot of horror games, are she's not actively attacking you physically. She's more blaming you. And it feels more interesting because of that. Because generally it's like, yeah, no, she's dead and she's angry and she's trying to murder me. That's kind of general J-horror stuff. And what's her evidence doing here? But I feel what Grace does with the apparitions is much more interesting. Because it feels like it's more personal than the usual kind of, oh, you're a stranger in our house, I will now murder you because I'm a spooky revenge ghost. It feels a lot more interesting what her reactions are like.
Something's not right.
And yeah, we've got some new things here beyond the evidence we collected in the level. For example, this concerning question. We're not the only ones asking that question. Let's just get out of here, shall we? Once I've scanned this. Because this seems like something we should keep an eye on.
Halothane anesthetic gas detected.
Anesthetic.
That seems oddly familiar. Well, let's just try and get out of here, shall we?
Ah, Mr. Black.
Please,
Apologies for the theatrics. It's all part of the treatment.
Treatment?
This will be far more straightforward if you just keep breathing. That's it. Good.
What the fuck? Hello?
That's it, Mr. Black. Relax. Breathe. You're back with us. Minor confusion is expected.
What? Who are you? What the hell is this thing on my head? Hey!
I see you're a man of details, Mr. Black. Your current confusion is a side effect of your treatment. I'm hoping it will pass in time. If it helps you remember, you may call me Red.
You gassed me. What the fuck is going on? There was something before. Another place.
That's why you're here, Mr. Black. But now is not the time for questions.
Something I appreciate with this game is the voice acting. While some people, for example the artsy, have made fun of it being a little bit over-dramatic in cases, I find it works fairly well for the type of story the game's telling, and is a much more refreshing aspect than the usual stoic protagonist.
Wait, a gun? My gun?
Consider it security, Mr. Black. A token of trust.
How can I trust you when you knock me out and put this thing on my head?
To explain, your memory was damaged in the explosion, leaving two questions that you came to us
to answer. Why were you there?
And who was the girl?
I know why I was there. To save the girl.
Then we are making progress.
Please.
Proceed.
Proceed with what? Hello?
Something that really works with Black's performance in this game, that I feel at least, is that he sounds convincingly scared at most of the times the game goes on, at least this early when he has no idea what the hell's going on. Does a pretty good job getting us the whole disorientation aspect down, and sounding confused and concerned in the right ways, for my taste at least.
Memory Unit RR003. Codename Pandora Savant.
Looks like the same thing I'm wearing.
Well, now we know what that thing on our head is. It's called the Pandora Memory Visualization Unit. Don't know what that means yet, but still, good to know. We at least know the devil now. We just don't know what it wants with us. So here we have a lot of files that are very easily missed. I'm going to be keeping them up long enough for you to pause and read them if you need to, but for the most part, they are kind of interesting, honestly, some of them. Some of them have interesting little mini-stories that they tell about each character, things like that I quite enjoy. And they just generally help with the world building and things like that.
Found. Walt Kaufman, 28. Armed Forces. Unit classified.
Armed Forces? What's he doing here?
As you may have guessed, this is an asylum. Lithurst Asylum, to be specific. This chapter is called The Man from Lithurst Asylum. Some of these characters are unimportant. For example, these patients never come up. I think they're just developer photos, probably. Although they look concerned enough, they might not be, but yeah. I mean, these sketches are maybe from a different source entirely, well, at least this bottom one looks kind of developer-ish. But I'm really not certain. One's still alive. It's good to know.
Match found. Leonard Shelby, 31. Missing persons registry number 0210. Case reported September 2000.
September 2000? Wait, that was... When was that?
Quite like the kind of weirdness of some of the paper having that weird, like, jank to it, like the lines are not quite fitting into the paper, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if it's bad graphics or trying to be, like, representing sometimes when printers screw up, but it's kind of an interesting visual thing.
Over here. You got out. How did you get out? You can't leave me here.
Just hang on. What's going on here? Where are we?
Please, you've got to help me. The switch there, it opens this door. You have to help me.
Let's see what he's about first.
Match found. Samson Charnel. Patient number 39.
Samson Charnel? I don't trust that name. Let's not open his door, shall we? The way this puzzle would work is we'd open one of those electric boxes, flip the switch and then open his door. But there are multiple times in this game we have to make a choice between whether to do one thing or another. They don't affect the endings will affect in a different way, but they at least affect the flow of this set of levels, and I feel it works better if you go through as effectively as possible. And yeah, this is how you can see the screen text if it can get kind of hard to read at times with certain, either because they say poor handwriting or the slightly burnt paper, they can get kind of hard to read, so that's a nice feature to be able to do.
Very good, Mr. Black. You must be as efficient as possible.
But yeah, that kind of noise that you hear is a noise that happens whenever you make a decision that will affect your overall standing in the game. Because, of course, they do contribute to the branch. But... Oh dear. A little danger. I quite like the weird blaring heartbeat the music goes with here. It sounds pretty interesting. And I kept that because I thought that was pretty funny. Just a total kind of tonal just destruction of the entire thing there with that stupid Steven Universe install. I did not see that coming at all. I laughed pretty hard when that happened. In the middle of recording as well. It's like, come on. Never happened when I was playing this game before, then it just happened right then and there. It's like, ugh, you gotta be kidding me. Because it's such a loud and obtrusive thing as well. It's always funny for me whenever something like that happens and completely blows attention out of the water. But this game's still got plenty of tension to go, so it's not completely destroyed the game. So let's head down these stairs, shall we? The brief little respite before the game starts bearing down on
memory
you.
has been affected. Your twitch response remains intact. Pure muscle memory. Fascinating.
What is this? Place is filled with runaways, criminals, ex-military. Who the fuck am I? And why the fuck am I armed?
I understand your curiosity, but there will be time for questions later, Mr. Black. Please, proceed.
I like that he asked that question, why am I armed? Many protagonists don't bother, they just get the gun and go, okay, at least I can defend myself now, but he's actually asking, why did you give me a gun? That seems like a dumb idea. So well done, Black. You're asking interesting questions, at least. I always appreciate when characters ask interesting questions. It doesn't happen often enough.
Locked. Of course it is.
Here is where that branch comes into play that I mentioned earlier with Samson Charnel.
Fourth birthday? No, never third, never.
Someone there? Yes. Someone. Someone. Real. Turn on the light. Let me see.
All he wants is a light. That seems harmless enough.
Match found. John Linden. Missing persons registry 2703.
He seems nice enough. Let's give him what he wants. Let's turn on the light, shall we?
Oh,
He's a sweetie.
there. Yes, I can see that. Let's count together, shall we? 1, 2, 3, 4 candles. Very good. That's it. Take a deep breath. But remember to make a wish first. Go on.
What on earth?
The device
That
is
doesn't
Mr.
seem
Black
good.
in action.
I assure you.
He is having a splendid time.
If we had released Samson, we would have had to turn on the power to his cell to do that, and that would have resulted, if we pressed that button, in a surge that would have blacked out the light permanently, and caused him to go into a panic that would have caused him to die in fear. That is where this choice would have led. They're interesting choices, and I quite like the way they're presented. I may do a one of the game where I'll show bad choices later.
An admirable quality that will come in quite useful.
As we prepare for our first little trip.
The more external stimuli
You engage with while wearing the
Pandora unit, the more effective your synaptic recall will be. Please, continue.
But yeah, I'm going to be going for mostly good choices and well done playthroughs in this part of the game, because, or at least on this run when I'm recording here, because it's easier to get the bad ending than it is the good ending. I just want to, and it's also easier to replay the game once you've beaten it, for reasons you'll see. For now, we have evidence together in this room that Islos locked us into. Here's a photo of Birmingham. That's interesting. And here's a photo of Grace for some reason. Again, interesting. Wasn't intentionally creeping, they're just trying to show the whole photo. It doesn't let you zoom out, all you can really do is scroll up and down it. So that seemed a bit skeevy, I'm sorry. Was not my intent. Here's blueprints for the corner gun. Interesting to know how it's put together. And more of them over here too. One thing I quite like is that for the, because you may have assumed by now we're coming up to a level that these are the evidence for. The one thing I quite like is it gives you a lot of the evidence for each level before the level actually starts, so you don't have to hunt for too much stuff in the actual level. About half of it tends to come in the rooms immediately surrounding the level, immediately preceding it rather. And yeah, there you have to actually look at both maps, both blueprints, and both business cards. You can't just look at one and have it register the whole picture. That's not the way the game operates. So make sure you look at everything individually, or you'll regret it. When you have one thing you're missing, you have no idea what it is. Generally, the shape of the evidence can tell you, but we'll go more into that later when that sentence will make more sense. For now, let's just enjoy some more lore, shall we? Again, the usual thing applies. If you want to read it, pause the video, because there's a lot of these in the game. And yeah, that building we just saw is called the Birmingham Clock Tower, which is cute. At least in-game it is anyway. I have no idea anything about Birmingham in real life. I don't live anywhere near it, I've never really been there, so... May look up that building and see if it even exists. It may just be a render for the game. There's a lot of interest this level has in the ADS.
Keep your eyes locked and focused. Slow, even breaths. Patience, Mr. Black. Calm.
Focus.
It will take the memory unit a moment to calibrate.
And this is how we enter our levels. Focus on the picture until it takes us there. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Very good.
Just relax and allow that image to take you back there. You may feel a little disorientated at first.
But you will be
Perfectly safe. The building in the photo is the headquarters for Advanced Defense
strategy, or ADS.
They are, or should I say were, the UK's
Leading weapons manufacturer.
They were developing a weapon known as the corner gun, which apparently you remember.